Hi, this is Murray from Second Time Tech, and today I'm going to show you the computer that I built. And I had a few problems with it, and the problems that I had with it weren't really building it. It was a lot with Windows and the overclocking part, but we'll get into that a little bit later. As you can tell, I've got it running, and I just took the cover off just so that you could see. And I did not get to get into the RGB. As you can see back in the corner over there, it's flashing different colors. It's not white. So whenever I said last time that I might be lucky and get it, the thing with a nice glowing white light in there, well, I didn't get it yet because I didn't have time to put the program in and do the rest of it because I was having those few little problems with the other things. But I got the Kingston drive in there. You probably can't see it. It's right inside there, just above the CPU. Sorry, just below the CPU, just above the GPU, the graphics card. And I got Windows on it, and I got the other drive put on the back, because on this one here, whenever you put the 3.5-inch drives, they're right behind here on the back, and then the 2.5-inch drives, like the SSD, they're behind the motherboard at the bottom on the back side of it. There's 3 different spots where you can put them in some little cases, which is quite nice actually. So I've got all but one drive in there that I want, and I have to order that other drive, and I'm trying to make up my mind if I want to get a Toshiba one or if I want to get a Seagate one. I like the idea of the Toshiba one. They're both 3 terabyte drives, and they're both around $100 Canadian. I think one's $104 or $105, and the other one's $110. So they're not that much different. It's just, I think the Toshiba one will last longer. I think it has less faults in it, but I'm not 100% sure. I got 100% sure. I have to do a little bit more research on that, and then I'll decide which one it is, and I'll put it into that. That's going to be my backup drive. So, like I said, I still got that drive to put in, and then I have another SSD drive that I'll be getting on Thursday. And so I can swap another thing over, and then I'll be able to put that drive in here. So then I'll have my Kingston NVMe drive, that's 480 gigs. And then I've got a 250 gigabyte SSD in there, and then I'll have another 256 gigabyte SSD in there, and then I'll have a 3 terabyte hard disk drive in there also. But like I said, I still got to figure out which one I want to get on that one. Anyway, I'll get to the few of the problems that I had. Oh, you might hear a little bit of ticking. If you hear some ticking, it's either my back fan on the AIO or it's the pump on the AIO. I'm not sure which it is. I'm trying to figure that out, but I can hear this little ticking going on, and it's coming from in there, and it's louder whenever I listen to it on the back of the computer. So I'm having a funny feeling that I may have not tightened one of the screws all the way down on the back fan on the AIO, but hopefully that's all it is. But I'll have that figured out by Thursday, and I will let you know on Thursday. One of the biggest problems I had was was Windows. They wouldn't allow the registration that was on the computer before it work on this one. It said I had to get a new key. So I went in and I told it that I had upgraded the computer. Well, there's only certain things that it looks at. And it was on the same drive, but I had a different motherboard and a different CPU. And I guess that was enough for it to trigger the thing saying, this is not the same computer. So I had to go and get a new key and put it in. And whenever I put the new key in, it worked fine. But it was just a bit of a headache having to go source one and find it, because they are quite expensive. So I looked around to see what I could find. And there's this place called SCD Key. I think that's the name of it. I'll put it in the show notes. And I'll put a link to it. And on there, it was around $20, and then there was a code that I put in, and it took it down by 10%. So it was around $18, somewhere around there for it. And so that wasn't bad. So at least I found a decent price, because on Amazon Canada, you can't find ones that are below about $35 or $37 right now. And I wanted something quick so I could get this up and running to make sure everything was all right. And that's for the Pro ones. That's not for just Windows 10 Home. It's Windows 10 Pro. The Home keys, I think they have them on there for around $20, if I'm not mistaken, on Amazon. But I wanted the Pro one. And so my big problem was with Microsoft, because I bought the key for Windows for it to be on this computer, and then because I upgraded it, they decided, no, you can't use it. So I'm not very happy with them, but we'll have to see what's going to go on there. I sent them an Instagram. Anyway, the other thing that I was doing was I was overclocking. Because on the last one, I said that what I wanted to do was overclock the R7 1700 to at least the R7 1700X speed. And the high speed on it, like the turbo speed on it, is 3.8 gigahertz. Now, that's what I was striving for, because that was the least that I wanted to do. And so I was hoping everything would work fine. So what I ended up doing was whenever I started, I'm just going to read off this because I wrote down everything that I did. I overclocked it to 3.7. That was where I started, just to see, make sure everything was all right. And everything worked fine. I had no problem at 3.7. Actually, I run a program called Prime 95, and that's how you can stress test your system. And mostly the CPU, not very much on the GPU, but I wasn't really caring that much on the graphics card, the GPU. I wanted to see if the overclock would hold on the CPU, like the Ryzen 7 1700. And so that's what that Prime 95 does. And it also does some stuff with memory too. And whenever I put my memory in there, it automatically saw it and said, the motherboard automatically saw it and said, okay, there's XMP for that, which is a protocol that they use for the timings on motherboards to go past whatever the default is for your CPU. And because my memory, the Corsair 3600 megahertz, it was supposed to run at 3200 megahertz on this, and it did right away. So after I put in the XMP, told it to go to that profile, it worked fine. I'm not really trying to make it go any faster than 32 megahertz, but there is something you can do that's called tightening the timing, and it'll make it run faster, make the CPU run faster. So I'm going to try and do that, but I did not have enough time to do it yet. I still got a little bit more to read up and watch some more videos on that so that I can know how to do that a little better anyway. But whenever I tested it on Prime 95 at 3.7 gigahertz, the CPU temperature after 10 minutes was 51 degrees Celsius. After 30 minutes, it was 55 degrees Celsius. And at 60 minutes, it was 55 degrees Celsius again. So I went, oh, okay, that's fine. So then I said, well, now I'll try 3.9 just to see. So I tried 3.9, didn't work. So I went, okay, why didn't it work? And so I looked down and it said, that the ratio was running at 15.5. So it was actually only running at 1.5 gigahertz. I'm going, okay, that's weird. Because what you have to do is you have to put in, if you want 3.9, you have to put in 39.00, and then that will tell it to be 3.9 gigahertz. So I'm going, so why did it drop it down? So I went back into the BIOS and looked, and it was still set at 39. I'm going, I don't understand why it's doing that. So then I was trying to research it a little bit, and then I watched a video, and on the video, it came up and said that you had to increase your voltage on your CPU in order for it to work properly. So I went, okay. And the guy said, put it at 1.4. So I went, okay. So I put it at 1.4 and I ran it. And that was last night. And so I ran it at 38. So it was 3.8 gigahertz. And because that's what I wanted, I said, well, I'm just going to try at that speed. And so basically what it was I put it in, and then after it just starting up, it was at 54 degrees Celsius for the CPU. Then after 30 minutes, it was 67 degrees Celsius. After 60 minutes, it was 67 degrees Celsius. And after 90 minutes, it was 67 degrees Celsius. So it stayed the same. So I went, oh, okay, that's fine. And then I went to bed because it was like 1:30 in the morning. So I said, no, that's too much. So I started again today, and it was this morning, and I went onto the forums to start to read about like what's the right voltage, because I thought 1.4 was too high. I thought it was supposed to be like a 1.38 something was the highest, maybe 1.385 or something like that was the highest that you could do. So I went and saw on one that it says that you can go up to 1.45, but if you leave it at that, then it degrades. AMD says that it degrades your CPU and it'll shorten the life of it. So they said keep it below 1.4, and then I went, well, that makes sense. But they said that 1.41 or 1.42 isn't bad, but you may not have your CPU as long type thing. It would be harder on it. So I said, well, I think I'll just stick with, like, I'll go lower than the 1.4 just to see. So what I did was I left it at the 38, which is 3.8 gigahertz. And I put the CPU voltage to 1.37 to start with. and I ran Prime 95, and then I took a base start of it. So like it was just sitting there idling, and it was 22 degrees Celsius. And then I looked at it just after I had started it, and it was up to about 43 degrees Celsius. Then after 10 minutes, it was at 50 degrees Celsius. And then at 30 minutes, the program had stopped running. Because the nice thing about Prime 95 is if it encounters a problem, it turns the program basically to an idle state so that it doesn't harm your computer. And so when I came to look, all the cores weren't at 100%. Like there was maybe one core at 30%, another core at 0, another core at 2, another core at 3. Like it was just like all over the place. So it had just stopped so that it would protect the computer. So I went, oh, okay, I guess I need a little bit more voltage. So then what I did was I put it at 1.38, and it came up as 1.38125. And so I checked that, and I put it at again 3.8 gigahertz, and just after I started the program, it was 49 degrees Celsius, and then 10 minutes later it was 54 degrees Celsius. 30 minutes later it was 64 degrees Celsius. Then at 60 minutes, it was 55 degrees Celsius. At 90 minutes, it was 57 degrees Celsius. And at 115 minutes, it was 57 degrees Celsius. I didn't want to go to 120, but I had to leave, so I had to cut it off 5 minutes early. So I went, oh, okay, that's great. So we went on and did our things that we needed to do, and I came back, and then I did the cable management in the back, and that worked out fine. And so I had one little problem. I forgot that the side doesn't bulge out. It's like perfectly straight because it's, of course, it's a piece of glass, and the cable that's for the 24 pin, with where I had put it, made it bulge out a little bit farther than it needed to, and I couldn't put the panel on because I couldn't squish it and whatnot, and there was no bulge in it to accept it. But I realized that there was another path that you could take, so I just had to undo that, take out 2 cable ties, I think it was, reroute it, undo it, and reroute it, and then plug it back into the motherboard. And then I only had to use like one more cable tie on one of the little points and a different one, and then the glass went on perfectly fine. So it was just I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, whenever I was doing it. I thought it would fit on, but it just didn't. So that's not that bad, actually. So it worked out pretty good. And so then I put the front on. Not the front, but the other side on. And so I had a closed case. Now the other ones were all run on an open case because both sides were open. So then on the closed case, I said, oh, I'll probably need a little bit more voltage. So what I did was I put in, for the CPU voltage, I put 1.385, and it came up as 1.387, I think it was 50 or something like that at the end. I only wrote the first 3 numbers after the decimal point. And so again, it was overclocked, still at 38, which is 3.8 gigahertz. And after I started the Prime 95, it was 43 degrees Celsius after about 30 seconds. And then at 10 minutes, it was 60 degrees Celsius. And at 30 minutes, it was 64 degrees Celsius. And then I couldn't hear the fans because I was just in the other room. And I went, I don't hear the fans anymore. So I came in after about like 15 minutes later, so about 45 minutes in, and and it was the CPU wasn't running very hard at all again. So I went, oh, okay, I guess I need more voltage. So I upped it again, and I put 1.385, And what came up was 1.393. And so I said, okay, well, I guess that's the next step that it can do. So I ran it like that. And so still at 3.8 gigahertz. That's what's running right now. And at the start, it was 43 degrees Celsius. And then after 10 minutes, it was 58 degrees Celsius. And then after 30 minutes, it was 59 degrees Celsius. And in that time, I was watching another video about cases. And they were talking about a case that they were using, and it had a top-mounted exhaust, which this is, a top-mounted exhaust, because there's no fans there, so the air comes out this way. And so what they said, take the filter off of it. That's what they did on theirs. It's a totally different case, though. So I went, oh, I'm going to try that. So I took the filter off and let it run for 30 minutes. And I came back, and it was 66 degrees after, and that would have been after 60 minutes. So I went, okay, I'm going to put it back on again. So like just as a little test. So I put it back on, and then at 90 minutes, it was 58 degrees again. So on this one, when the case is closed, you need that filter on there to make the airflow right to keep the CPU temperature down. Wow, this is getting long. Anyway, so then I let it run for another 30 minutes, so it was 2 hours, and it went to 59 degrees Celsius, so it only went up like one more. And so I stopped it and said, good, that's great, that's the way it works, and that's fine with me. So I'm going to stop this because it is into past 22 minutes now. And I'm going to do the memory timings on it probably in the next 2 days. So on Thursday, whenever I show the computer again, I should have the memory timings done, and I'll tell you about those. And I should have my other SSD drive in there, and I should have decided by then which 3 terabyte backup drive I'm going to put inside there. So anyway, that's all that I have for now. If you like the video, please hit the thumbs up. And if you like the content, please hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able to get more of my programming. And I do want to wish everybody a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Bye.